and then, or that.
I got it.
Oh,
There you go.
great. Thanks. So I have the first thing, which was last week. So John, last week we had this meeting, and one of the kind of questions coming out of that was sort of, what do we need to do to break down MVC 0 further, or just like make sure that that was all set up for success? And we had a discussion around if we will be able to kind of deliver the default work item types as part of 14.2, which led to a additional discussion, which I'm now realizing I don't know if I have an answer on, which was the kind of HAML to view issue list conversion was noted as a blocker for that on the front end side, for kind of being able to show the types there and things like that. So Donald was going to run that down and see if that is where that is. He was optimistic that that would be finished up soon, but we were kind of in this state where depending on when that gets wrapped up and the front end can move on to the work item type stuff, would determine whether or not it would be done in time for the release. Brett went through and I think yesterday did a additional breakdown of the backend stuff on the MVC 0 issue and promoted that up to a sub epic, which is pretty good and has weights on everything. It looks like a little bit more work than I had originally anticipated. So he's working through that now, but it feels a little bit better in terms of kind of insight into what we need to get done. So that was really the only update I had for today. Alexandru will be back next week. He's been out for 2 weeks, so that's been a big part of the workforce on this stuff. He's been, he had been driving it forward pretty primarily before this. So Brett's been carrying the torch while he's gone.
Yeah, I was just before the call reading Alexandru's MR, the developer docs MR that he wrote just before I left. I left some comments on that, but I'm kind of seeing from this that we're moving ahead with the work item types table. I was curious, like, why do we need that table if all namespaces are going to have all issue types, all the hard-coded types? Like, do we really need a table, or can it just be in code and then we can control access to different types? Like, so I had some technical questions about that, but it seems like that's probably more to do with me coming back off PTO though, and not having read the technical discussion rather than it being a bad idea. I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'll try to find where the discussion happened on that. And of course, that's going to mean going through the several places where discussion happens. But I do there was like I recall some explicit discussion about that exact question. So I'll see if I can find that and point you to it.
Yeah, cool. We have like probably realistically 5 days, working days left of the release. So what are the chances that we get something out in 14.2?
From my perspective, it feels unlikely that we'll ship something that's like user facing. I mean, we have like made progress, and we have the MR for the table in place and the default types MR, but I legitimately don't have insight into the front end side if that's making progress or not, so I'll have to follow up on that. But I would, given what I know now, I would say it seems unlikely that we would ship something that's user facing that relates to work items.
Yeah, I need to check up also on the progress that Charlie's made with converting existing requirements to work items. I'll be talking to her later in the week as well and see how far we are with that. Gabe, you got the next one.
Just asking if there's any technical questions or concerns from a front end or back end standpoint that would prevent us from, when ready, getting started with the front end for the new work item view, like the base of it, wrapper, all that good stuff. And Ollie, if you don't think you're ready, that's fine too. I just was checking in to see like how we feel about it. I haven't looked at it recently, so.
I feel like I'm ready. I'm going through and adding in the annotations. I had to go back and revisit the prototypes and fill in a lot of gaps because I'm hoping to get some feedback from usertesting.com on those designs. I had created those issues and had tagged Anna, and I'm kind of waiting to hear her thoughts on how to move forward with that. But I'm adding in the annotations right now, and not much has changed. The only real change, I think, from the last time I had shown it was the creation of a modal-based view to try to reduce the context switching, which is something we've already talked about previously anyway. But the other elements are really the same. And all of that should be in that issue. I'll add it again to the agenda that has the design updates in it. So if anybody has any questions at any point, please let me know.
Okay. Alexis.
Hey y'all. Yeah, I was in research world this morning, so I finished typing this. So I did a competitive evaluation basically on different products. I looked at OKR tools. I think it's Purdue. Is that how you pronounce it, Gabe? You might know.
Which one?
It's Perdoo. Purdue. I don't know, but it's an OKR planning. Yeah, and then Ally as well. Also, I can't spell hierarchy. So I looked at that. I looked at Ally. I looked at our product and kind of scored how those were performing. So let me share my screen. And the scenario that I went through when I was kind of running through these different products was really, am I able to link things together, like work items together, and see how they cascade up to a larger initiative, goal, whatever, because I think that is like one of the larger jobs we could perhaps fulfill. So I believe it is, let me see. So I believe it was Ally performed actually the best. Gabe, but I think you use Ally as well, so you might have some thoughts there. We performed pretty poorly on things like having a tool that the entire team can use. So like anyone understands the terminology and can kind of jump in and use it. They don't have to be, let's say, a developer or a product manager. Also, our calls to action weren't super clear on features or workflows. So we might have some kind of like, let's say a widget, or maybe our like related items widget exists, but maybe users don't immediately understand the value of it or how to use it, like what they should do with it, how it's valuable to them in their workflow. So I had like a million issues from this that I need to create. So I'm going to go through and do that today. But I listed out kind of some of the main ones here in the agenda. And I think so wayfinding and nesting as nav was something that came up a few times. So like wayfinding, meaning wherever I am in the product and wherever I am within the hierarchy, I need to know like, kind of like, what is the UR here? Where am I, right? Like I know there's this big structure that I'm within, but like, where am I at the moment? And then how do I navigate around the structure? So those are really important things that I think we should better incorporate or like improve within our product. And as we move forward with work items, I'll stop. Is there any questions there?
I was just going to say about breadcrumbs is that before I got sick last week, I remember seeing some post from the growth team about how GitLab currently works and in terms of like wayfinding, navigation, what customers want. And right now it's all structured around your groups and projects hierarchy. The breadcrumbs are the only way to navigate through that efficiently, which is problematic. I don't like them, but literally it's the only way that I can move up to my parent group easily with a single click or two. And then they showed a graph of like, or a chart of how the navigation structure and wayfinding currently works versus what our customers want is they want all of their stuff that they work on in one view instead of having to go wayfind through these like hierarchies to get to what they need. They just want like all their stuff in one place, right? And they want the navigation to be structured around their stuff, not the groups and projects construct. So I'll find that, and you can maybe talk to the growth team about some of the findings that they had that were relevant. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, that'd be really great. Yeah, I wonder about those breadcrumbs all the time, that they're not super consistent all the time too. And that's really good feedback. Gabe, does anyone else have thoughts on breadcrumbs? Do y'all use them often? Do you like them? Are they what you expect?
I don't like them, but I have to use them.
Same.
Yeah, I don't love them, but it's not like my pet peeve. My pet peeve is the cognitive load of trying to figure out exactly where I am and what I'm looking at. Like, so I'll come back to something, I'll forget if it's an epic or an issue, and I use the weirdest like heuristics I've noticed to figure out what it is. Like, I'll scroll. I noticed I'll scroll if it's an epic, and if, because issues like have sticky title, if it doesn't stick, it's an epic. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, but it is like probably a symptom of something like that's not right. Everything looks too similar. Groups and projects look too similar when you're in them, or when you're in, say, issues in groups, in a group or a project. Like, it's very hard to know if you're looking at group issues, project issues. Breadcrumbs, like, at least you could say they're functional. They're not particularly pretty, but yeah, again, even looking at the breadcrumbs, sometimes I'm still not entirely sure if I'm in a group or a project. I'll use the URL for that.
I've heard similar feedback. Gabe, you tagged me in something recently where someone was talking about breadcrumbs, and I forget who it was, but they were saying that they have trouble knowing how to interpret them. And something that I found in the mobile testing is that when you've got lots and lots of layers deep into groups and projects, then it just wraps and it looks terrible in a mobile setting. So I like the thought of having the top level group and then the most recent project and just like an ellipsis or something in the middle, which I know we already do a form of that, and giving people the ability to tap on that and view more if they want to, but just trying to find ways to kind of simplify that information so that it seems a bit more meaningful.
Yeah, we already do that, where if it's a long breadcrumb, we'll just truncate it and show the top level ellipsis that you can click on to select the level below. And I use that a lot when I'm demoing to customers, because I use those deeply nested groups. I wouldn't even mind if it's just sort of like the ellipsis before the current context that I'm in. And so that way, like, I don't even have that extra noise, because I never go up to the top level group where I am. And I bet that's the same for a lot of customers too, who work, or at least users who work out of the same.
But at what point do we show that? Like, how many levels deep before that pops up? Do you know?
I would show that always, but I don't know how many levels deep, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would like to see that always. Once you've gone in maybe an extra level and you've got something deeper than just group and project, then going ahead and showing that and just simplifying it from the start.
Yeah, I think I mean, I know I've looked at an issue around truncation, and I think it was Secure was working on it. Like, where do we truncate? At the end, at the beginning, and the middle, and there was a study into what was best practice there. So I could try to dig that up later. Thanks for posting that, Gabe. Cool. Thank y'all. That's really good feedback, John, especially. That's so interesting what you're doing over there. So searching for work items. This is mostly a GitLab issue, and I think we all kind of know about it. But one thing I encountered, because I was just kind of like pretending I'm a new user that doesn't know much about GitLab, right? And especially after testing out these other 2 products that were similar, I really wanted to just type in the title of the object that I want to add. So let's say I'm in the epic tree. I want to add an existing issue or epic. I just want to type in the title of that and have that be selectable. Whereas if I start typing within our tree, I might type in like and then once I hit space, of course that becomes the item I'm searching for. And I'm assuming that's like, the logic, and maybe I could put quote marks, I'm not sure, but I'm just kind of wondering, what are the constraints there? Like, is there anything we can do to make this kind of more friendly? What do y'all think? And Gabe, I think do you want to voice anything?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, searching for plain text like a title, the constraints are, if you are in one project, we only look in that project for related issues, because it would be too expensive to look in all the projects you have access to. So if you want to expand out and do sort of like auto matching, basically on all the projects you belong to, then that's problematic. That's sort of why I was, sorry, my Zoom's like, or my Safari's crapping out. While I was looking at assigning issue to multiple groups or projects, right? So then if you were to do, I'll drop this in here. Sorry, if you were to do that, then like you could know, like if it belongs to, if it's associated to these two groups or projects, then I can look for issues within those two for auto completing, instead of just like infinite amount of however many you want. So that's one thing. Heinrich is exploring adding full text search to Postgres, which also should make this a lot more performant, especially when searching through the filter bar and things like that. And then it's also worth noting, under other general ideas, we're moving towards this reference filter model, which is all based on the name of the thing and not symbols. We'll still like support backwards compatibility for symbols, but basically we ran out of special characters and we had to come up with another solution. And so I think we went with number 4 was the general consensus. And so instead of saying like, at all or at user, you can still do that, but you could type in a bracket like user : and then autocomplete on that. Or MR or snippet or epic or issue type name or like whatever it is. So I think that's a little bit more along the lines of what we were talking about, of like using common language to link things instead of weird symbols or other things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really helpful. I'm glad y'all are thinking about that already. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I had a note there that I thought when I was reading the agenda, I thought it was more about the like search page for like the issue search that exists currently, rather than sort of referencing or finding them. But it should, from a search perspective, like it's functionally the same as the issue search that we currently have, but hopefully with what Heinrich is working on, it will be faster and not routinely 500 every time someone tries to search too large of a data set.
Right. And then I guess like thinking forward, we could add potentially like title search within the filters, right? If we have this, or like comments or description, like you're just searching through the content.
Well, right now it searches title and description. Like that's the two kind of like buckets that are searched when you put text in. But I know that the ability to search comments is something that has been hotly requested, but it's kind of a unknown, insurmountable amount of figuring out how to do that right now. So
yeah, no, it's like no priority. Well, not in my end, maybe Gabe's end, but I just think that could be interesting. Cool. And do you think that will speed up the search? I'm assuming, right? Because I know if you search for just plain text within a filter, for example, it's like searching everything, so it kind of takes forever. Do you think this?
Yeah, the initial kind of like proof of concept was a drastic speed improvement. There's some implementation details around different languages that are designed differently than English language, is broken on spaces, that we have to kind of resolve how to deal with those, but it should be much faster, which is sort of the motivator. Like right now, the search is unacceptably slow. Like it's not really usable, so it's a big problem, both from a user perspective and from a infrastructure and database perspective.
Yeah, easy one to solve. Totally easy.
Yeah, simple, no problem.
Sarcasm. Cool.
The only other thing I was going to say is that right now we have just like sort of a different kinds of relationships between work items. You can have just the loose related, blocking, blocks. There's not any sort of the types of relationships between issues and merge requests, but there needs to be. Because like I can mention an issue in a comment of MR that's not even related or like isn't implementing that issue and it still gets marked as related, right? And so you, especially for auditing purposes and other things like that, there needs to be a way to like clearly specify that this MR is implementing this issue or work item, and then also maybe this MR is just related or was referenced or mentioned in this MR, but it doesn't implement it. So like there's some nuances that need to be solved for. So that's a real thing too.
Yeah, that's something I realized through this as well. I don't know where I put it. It's in one of these, but I kind of wonder, should we make those link types like configurable? Would that make sense? So instead of saying like blocked by or related to, at some point, would we ever want to allow users to change those like type of links that they can make between items?
That's what Jira does, but it's gets really convoluted really fast. When I was reviewing Jira with a couple of executives, they were walking me through it. They're like, I have no clue what the fuck this means. Like, what is implements? Like, I mean, when Matt showed me this giant list of drop downs of relationship types, and he had no clue what any of them were, and it was super complex. I would prefer not to make that customizable, just because like, or if we do, it's gonna be way down the road, right? Like, I think we can do a good job of defining, like, is it a child? Is the MR a child of an issue, or is it just related? Like, that's the only difference that we really need to have, in my opinion.
Okay. And as far as like, yeah, so you wouldn't even see necessarily like blocks or blocking, things like that to start with?
Not for the relation between an MR and an issue, no. I mean, if you think about it, if a merge request is a child of an issue, it's already blocking the issue because it has to be delivered before the issue can be closed, right? So that's sort of like where it's an implicit, like, as a child, you're already blocking your parent.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then you can have cross hierarchy blocking things, right? But maybe you could have a merge request that's not a child block an issue eventually, but I don't know. I actually just got off a call with folks from the editor team, and they more or less wanted to be able to put weights on merge requests and have that weight roll up to issues. And so I showed them the work item stuff, and they basically said that they want the merge request to be a work item. So that way, like, they can, like, there's no reason why there's the separation of the two in their minds, because now you have like different views for different things, and like you just artificial work to create issues so that PMs can see what's going on, and they make a really valid point. So at the end of the day, I don't think there's much difference other than like the type merge request of a work item has code reviews and a few other things like that that are specific to reviewing code and getting it merged. So
they didn't want to, it was like duplication of work to have an issue that they've created and then to be able to like tie that to the MR. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because they also said that they never go through and manage workflow labels because all they care about is their MRs and then getting issue closed, right? So they'll keep their MR up to date, but they will never keep the issue up to date because it's not automated, which then leads to like bad reporting, poor visibility for PMs, and all sorts of other things. So I think it's worth exploring that eventually too. It's just like, should a merge request just be a type of work item, which I think it should. But I talked to Kai, and I don't think they have any appetite for joining us on our journey, at least.
Yeah. we can just have opinions at some point, but yeah, it doesn't have to be like super pressing. Cool. Otherwise, inheriting parent attributes, that's something that kind of came up too, where it was frustrating to create this parent item, and then once you go and create, like, depending on your workflow, but once you create things under it, that they don't inherit some of the attributes that you would make sense to inherit, right? Like maybe in our case, it might be some labels, and it gets kind of hinky because maybe some you want to inherit, some you don't. You might want to configure them, but I was wondering if y'all have thoughts on that. And I guess Gabe, you do.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit already. There are valid use cases in the parent-child relationship where some things you need to roll up from your children, some things from the parent you want to roll down, some things you want to have both, like, if you have a weight on a parent, you want to be able to set that as like an estimated weight, and then also see the actual weight rolling up from your children. So what I would suggest in this is, like, instead of trying to solve it all at once. Like as we work through each field on the work item, existing widget, let's think through how the inheritance should behave. And then I think once we get through a few of them, a pretty clear standard pattern will emerge. And that's like what we want to get to. But it's a much broader conversation that could be had right here. That's my only 2 cents.
Cool. Any other thoughts? I think that makes sense. So like first think about what might make sense to inherit. Otherwise, a lot of stuff about like providing users with kind of like the ideal and not necessarily templates, but kind of what you were saying before, Gabe, with like, okay, if this is a child, this means it might be blocking, like having documentation and guidance on that within the product as well. So if there's an intended hierarchy or workflow, make that known and like easy to reference. If there's, a few of those, make that known and allow people to have like a template to access based on, the workflow, that kind of thing. So that's probably further down the line too.
One small thing, and this is just UX that we didn't get to, like in terms of relationship types and things like that, I can't mark an issue as blocked. If it's already related to an issue, I can't mark it as blocked unless I delete the related relationship and then I re-add it as a blocked relationship. I can't switch it, right? So that's the kind of thing, just like we want to make switching issue types easy, just like a drop down you switch. I think we really need to focus on making it simple to switch the type of relationship it is without having to like hit an X, right click, copy paste the link, hit the X on the relationship, click add, select blocks by, paste it in, hit enter. So it could go from like 6 clicks to 2.
Yep.
So
everything should be configurable and like preferably within the tree itself, I would think, or whatever it is, right? So and not having to go to the item and then edit it. Anyway, that's time. We can keep talking about this later. But thanks, y'all. Thanks for your feedback.
good job, everyone.
Everybody, hope you feel better, Gabe.
Thanks.
Yeah, I feel better.
Yeah, I feel
Bye,
Doing
y'all.
my best.